There's a British race within the race here. Chris Thompson, perhaps one of the most best recognised of our distance athletes, and Tomo, I just saw him warming up earlier on. He said today is a day for patience, and I think he's right. Johnny Mellor, the Olympic qualifying mark being chased by the British athletes. The qualifying mark already achieved by Johnny Mellor. Watch out for Ben Connor going as well in that race. And then last year we saw some brilliant performances from the Ethiopians behind Eliud Kipchoge. Mule Wasihun and his teammate Mozinet Geremu performed supremely well. Geremu now the fourth fastest marathon runner of all time, when he finished runner-up to Kipchoge last year. But there he is, the greatest marathon runner of all time, no question, no doubt about that. He was a world champion on the track back in 2003, the Olympic champion in the marathon. Race underway. It's chilly, it's wet, but we are up and running in London. 45,000 people, as Gabby's been talking about, all around the country since midnight have been out running the miles, and now it's the turn of the greatest, the fastest, the best, as they set off on the first of almost 20 laps. The lap is 1.327 miles, just over 2 kilometers each time, and when they come through to the mile after this first kind of 3/4 of a lap, they'll have 19 laps left to go. And watching every single step will be Andrew Cotter and Hannah. Andrew, first of all, we had a good women's race. Favourite one?
Yeah, and this one will be along those similar lines in that you have, as you mentioned, the races within the races, because already you see that second group there, and it was very strange to see Mo Farah about 4 rows back in the start, not getting a full introduction, because his job today, he knows his job today is to try and pace some of the British athletes to try and get that qualifying standard, or to try and get personal best. So he's in a red Pacers vest with a black hat on, and he's in there for the likes of Chris Thompson, who he's known and trained with for a long, long time. Johnny Mellor, as you mentioned already, has the standard, but there are others. Ben Connor stepping up to try the marathon now. So in that second group, you'll be able to see just about Mo Farah looking around there, having a look to see that he's doing the right kind of job. But somebody who he's a little bit further back, see him just tucked in about 4 rows from the back there. And it'll be very interesting for him to just have to not swallow his pride, but he knows that he is just here to do a job, and so that's what he's doing today.
Yeah, I'll bring Hannah in a minute. First of all, we'll just look at the full start list. We mentioned Kipchoge, Geremu Wasihun, one
impressive athlete, but you see that gap that first group already has to the second group out on the road.
Yeah, it's so important that the pacemakers get things right even in these early stages, and they've broken into the 3 groups we were expecting. One group going at somewhere around about 61 minutes for halfway, perhaps. Kipchoge likes to make the race hard. He wants to make sure nobody reaches halfway feeling too comfortable. More often than not, he'll then want to pick it up himself in the latter stages and make it a hard run in, but he likes to make sure that the pace is good and hard. So they are actually going out at a pace which for many of the men in that group would be something they haven't really done before. And then there's another group behind for those kind of around the 2:08 mark. That's what they're aiming at. And then the British group, which Mo Farah is leading. I'm calling it the British group. There are other athletes in that, of course, but that's the one where they're heading for around about the 2 hours 11, the Olympic qualifying. And he's been talking about how well preparations have gone despite everything. But he will still have to be very cognizant of the talent of the guys around him as well, who are improving still. You know, they're still getting better. He could argue he still is. We used to have a phrase in my training group, I don't know about you, Hannah, or you, Andrew, you know, you're only as good as your last performance. Well, his last performance wasn't too bad.
No, but you've got to run the race. I mean, these guys have had their build-up broken up by COVID, as all of us have had our lives disrupted, and you don't know how far away they are from their normal training environment and how much that might affect them. So I do think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out and watch that all fall into place.
I like the comical idea that I have a training group. four-legged training group. There they are.
Okay, so 14:48, that's just under 2 hours 5 pace, so it's not that quick early on in the men's race. Early stages yet, just settling down, getting used.
Power he has, Scullion, and he's not built similar to many other marathon runners. He's very strong in the upper body, but he's a very, very impressive marathon runner, and looking to get perhaps below 2:11 today.
Yeah, interesting. We just saw a glimpse of that group. It wasn't even a group, was it? Jake Smith was wearing pace 5. Very, very good year he's had, the Welsh athlete, who I'm told is thinking about maybe one day, you know, having a go at this sort of thing, feeling what it's like. Certainly half marathon, something with Jake will be thinking about. We saw Eilish McColgan pacing in the women's event. Mo Farah, of course, pacing a little bit behind Jake and the main British group, if you like, that Andrew was talking about with Tomo and Ben Connor and the rest of the guys in there. But this is now a very big leading group, slower for the main athletes at the front, but the likes of Moen and Miyuchi and others have joined on the back of this. Well, we've talked a lot about the conditions and the road, etc., and occasionally, and we've mentioned the footwear, the shoes, and Andrew, we said we're going to have a bit of shoe chat.
Yeah.
I was always wondering where I could get that out, because you pronounce those things so much better than I can. But well, let's have a bit of shoe chat, Andrew.
Shoe chat. Time for shoe chat. Well, look at all the shoes there. There's shoes, and it's really about the evolution of shoes. And running is such a simple thing. You know, we'll just have a look at the leading men, the times
makers, and just signs that things are beginning to move a little bit quicker. They went through the third 5 kilometer section in 14:46, which isn't that quick, but it was the quickest 5k section, but mainly because of the last mile of that was a little bit quicker, and they've kind of carried that on. As I said, I think he's just thinking, okay, it's fine, you know, I feel good, of course I do, I'm running 2:6 pace. That's slow for him, that's very slow. I can't remember, I'd have to go and look at the last time he ran a marathon that slow, but there's plenty of people there, and including the two main contenders. If he were to falter today, you would think, including Geramu, who's just behind him. So what do you think, Hannah? We always expect a quick...
Expect to tail off and run the second half slightly slower, but he will be hoping here, I'm sure, for a negative split and running faster in the second half, in which case he would be able to burn off a few of the other athletes in this group.
Yeah, but the difference between Koskai had one person. He's got Geramu, he's got others, and he's just missing his drink there as well. So this is halfway point, just about to pass. We'll get the split, and as you can see there, they're going to be outside 2:6 pace. They've just run a 4:50 odd mile. I mean, that really, when you think that he operates at 4:40 miles, they go, we are just under 2 hours 6 pace, just. So very different race to that which we've seen from him in recent times, and be really interested to see what develops in the second half here.
And all the drinks are planned out as well throughout the race. I mean, missing a drink, it might not seem like a serious thing, and perhaps in today's conditions it's not quite as important, but just missing his drink there, and it's just little things that might add up and just begin to nag away in your mind as well. But you know, can't begin to doubt Eli Kipchoge. No matter what the pace is, he's still, I'm sure, the strongest by some distance, and we'll see what happens in the second half of the race. But it's just not quite as quick as we expected, and Eli Kipchoge might be looking for things to pick up a little bit.
Well, keep an eye on the groups behind in terms of going through halfway. The lead
easily, and then you slip away.
Yeah, let's just start talking about one or two of the others in there. On the inside, the tall figure of Vincent Kipchumba. Doesn't race very often, Vincent, but when he does, he's quite impressive. Last year, he won Vienna, he won Amsterdam. Not the biggest races, but 2:5 in Amsterdam. That means that he's right on that mark here. He's only ever run 2 half marathons and 7 marathons in his whole career. And then Benson Kipruto, 29-year-old who won Toronto a couple of years ago, a 60-minute half marathon man. He's in the black strip. Kitata, a 2:4 runner himself, second here in London a couple of years ago, fourth here last year, behind, of course, Eliud Kipchoge. He's just rallying a little bit, pulling in Tola, but that lead group are away and gone.
Oh, poor old Tola is suddenly broken. So we'll come back to the front again for the denouement of the race. But there's what was the British group, and in fact now there's Peter Herzog has pulled away, Tristan Woodfine of Canada. So then the gap back there to the two Britons, Ben Connor and Johnny Mellor, just about side by side. So just behind, there's Tristan Woodfine of Canada, and so just a little bit further back we can see Ben Connor, and he's just a few paces in front of Johnny Mellor now.
Yeah, I've seen them running past in front of us over the last couple of laps, and that group did start to break up. Herzog was the one who put the pressure on. Begin with, Ben was looking as though he wanted to go with. And remember, Hannah, I said, well, we both said, didn't we, a little while ago, you still got half an hour to go. So they've dropped their pace now, but they're still running pretty strongly, and the two of them are racing now, and that will help. One of them's going to come out on top, obviously, but the two of them are almost helping each other to keep the pace moving.
No, the fantastic news is they're well on pace to get under that Olympic qualifying time, so we could see Ben Connor getting that Olympic qualifying time and joining Johnny Mellor, Callum Hawkins and Mo Farah as the British athletes with that qualifying time. But this is going to turn into a real race for the last couple of laps between these two, and I think they will push each other to get every second out of themselves.
2 laps to go for Ben Connor and Johnny Mellor, the two best British athletes in the race. And at the front, Kitata, well, he works on the family farm. He's got 4 sisters, 3 brothers. And he said, I started reading about the great Ethiopian runners when I was at school, and that's what got me involved. And you look at Lema, when he first started running at age 17, he had to run barefoot. He couldn't even afford a pair of shoes, he said. And all of these guys, there's Chris Thompson just being passed with Dowie Griffiths as well. And, sorry, Josh Griffiths, of course, not Dowie Griffiths. Josh Griffiths. So these men, Lema, and then Geramu, we said, and Wazirhun, who's performed so well here last year. But I keep saying, I've been really impressed by Kipchumba, Vincent Kipchumba, in the blue, the only Kenyan in that lead group. Then a gap. Geramu under pressure, he's looked comfortable, but if you haven't got pace, if you can't pick it up, nothing you can do about it. He could probably keep running that pace for another 3-4 miles, who knows. So now we're down to 3. I was beginning to think we were going to get that great race when there were 4 or 5 men coming into the mile together a few years back. But now there'll only be 3 as Geramu takes a look behind. Nothing happening behind him. It's all in front of him. Lema, Kipchumba and Kitata. Lema last year 3rd in the Berlin Marathon when he ran that 2 hours 3:36. One of the quickest runs of all time. Kitata still nibbling away at the front, isn't he? Still looking as though he's got what it takes, but you have to say Kipchumba for a long time has looked good and has looked comfortable. This is going to be a sprint. Who's got the legs? A couple of more corners left. A few hundred meters of running, that's all. It's like a track race now. Kitata just with half a meter. Lema's back there as well. Kipchumba looks as though he's ready, but can any of these men raise anything more than just an increased cadence? Can any of them actually start sprinting? They'll be tired, the legs will be hurting. And now Kipchumba on this side and Lema on the other side. Kitata's the only one who responds, or it's Kenyan who's just forging ahead. Not by much though, it's only half a meter. Neck and neck, stride for stride. Kipchumba and Kitata, the two of them locked in battle. Nobody giving even half a centimeter, but now Kitata finds a little bit extra. It's going to be Kitata who takes the victory. Kipchumba 2nd, Lema 3rd. A great finish to the men's London Marathon in 2020, and it's Ethiopia who take the title in the form of Shura Kitata. 2nd 2 years ago, and it's sweet victory for him in this very special year. Geramu, even though he looked the best, couldn't raise the sprint that the others could. Wazirhun, his teammate, the two men who were 2nd and 3rd last year, having to watch others contend the finish as Charlie Holson takes the bell on his last lap, and then we'll be watching for Kipchoge to come up the home straight. But the battle for the British title continues.
Stay there.
I'll go back to that in a second. Here he is, Eliud Kipchoge. Well, apart from his Olympic victory in Rio, this is his slowest of his marathons, and the first time he's been beaten since 2013, and the first time he's finished as low down, and I use that as a phrase which many athletes would be happy to finish